Hello, welcome to Daily Speaking Pod. Welcome back, my dear English learners. I am Jack, and today I am very happy to practice English with you. In today's podcast, we are going to talk about a very useful and common topic: how to talk about your weekend in English. Talking about your weekend is one of the most natural conversations you can have in English. On Monday morning, a coworker may ask, "How was your weekend?" A friend may ask, "What did you do this weekend?" Or on Friday afternoon, someone may ask, "What are you doing this weekend?" These questions are simple, but they appear again and again in everyday English. Today, we will practice how to answer them naturally and confidently. We will talk about weekend plans, past weekend activities, staying home, going out, spending time with family and friends, relaxing, shopping, eating out, exercising, watching movies, and many other common activities. We will also learn useful vocabulary, practical phrases, speaking models, and simple questions you can use in real conversations. Are you ready? Great. Let's begin. First, let's understand the word weekend. The weekend usually means Saturday and Sunday. For many people, these are days when they do not work or study. Of course, not everyone has Saturday and Sunday free, but when people talk about the weekend, they usually mean their regular days away from work or school. Here are some simple sentences. I love weekends. I usually relax on the weekend. I had a busy weekend. My weekend was great. I didn't do much this weekend. These are all very common expressions. Now, imagine it is Monday morning. You arrive at work, and your coworker smiles and asks, "How was your weekend?" What can you say? The easiest answer is, "It was good, thanks." You can also say, "It was great. It was relaxing. It was pretty busy. It was quiet. It was fun. It was okay." But usually, we add a little more information. Instead of only saying, "It was good," you can say, "It was good. I spent some time with my family." Or, "It was relaxing. I mostly stayed home and watched movies." Or, "It was busy. I had a lot of things to do." Notice the word mostly. Mostly means for most of the time. I mostly stayed home. I mostly relaxed. I mostly spent time with my family. This is a very useful word when talking about your weekend. Let's practice the question again. How was your weekend? Answer: It was great. I went out with some friends. Question: How was your weekend? Answer: It was pretty quiet. I stayed home and relaxed. Question: How was your weekend? Answer: It was busy, but good. I did some shopping and visited my parents. Very good. Now, let's talk about another common question. What did you do this weekend? Because we are talking about a finished weekend, we normally use the past tense. You can answer, I stayed home. I watched a movie. I went shopping. I met some friends. I visited my family. I cleaned my apartment. I went for a walk. I cooked dinner. I played football. I studied English. I slept a lot. These are all natural weekend activities. Let's imagine Sophia from Italy. It is Monday morning, and Sophia is talking to a coworker. Her coworker asks, "How was your weekend?" Sophia says, "It was really nice." What did you do? On Saturday, I went shopping with my sister. Then we had lunch at a small restaurant. On Sunday, I stayed home, cleaned my apartment, and watched a movie. That sounds relaxing. Yes, it was. What about you? This is a very natural conversation. Notice that Sophia asks, "What about you?" This simple question is very important because it keeps the conversation going. If someone asks about your weekend, answer the question and then ask about theirs. For example, My weekend was great. I went hiking on Sunday. What about you? Or, it was pretty quiet. I mostly stayed home. How was yours? The phrase, how was yours, means, how was your weekend? It sounds very natural. Now, let's talk about Saturday and Sunday separately. This can help you organize your answer. You can say, on Saturday, I, and then on Sunday, I. For example, on Saturday, I met some friends and went out for dinner. On Sunday, I stayed home and relaxed. Very simple. Another example. On Saturday morning, I went to the gym. In the afternoon, I did some shopping. On Sunday, I visited my family. Notice the time expressions: Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, Sunday night. These expressions make your story clearer. On Saturday morning, I cleaned the house. On Saturday afternoon, I went shopping. On Saturday evening, I met some friends. On Sunday morning, I slept late. On Sunday afternoon, I studied English. On Sunday evening, I prepared for the week. Now, let's talk about the phrase, sleep in. To sleep in means to sleep later than you normally do. Many people like sleeping in on weekends. You can say, I slept in on Saturday. I usually sleep in on Sundays. If you normally wake up at 6:30 for work but wake up at 9 on Sunday, you slept in. Another useful phrase is stay up late. This means going to bed later than usual. I stayed up late on Saturday night. Maybe you watched a movie or talked with friends. So you can say, I stayed up late on Saturday, so I slept in on Sunday. That sounds very natural. Now, imagine Lucas from France. Lucas usually has a busy week. He wakes up early, goes to work, and comes home late. On weekends, he likes slowing down. On Friday evening, Lucas says, I don't have any big plans this weekend. I just want to take it easy. Take it easy means relax and not do too much. On Saturday morning, he sleeps in until 9. Then he makes coffee and has a slow breakfast. In the afternoon, he goes for a walk and buys some groceries. In the evening, he cooks dinner and watches a football match. On Sunday, he meets his brother for lunch and spends the afternoon reading. On Monday, a friend asks, what did you get up to this weekend? This is another natural way to ask, what did you do this weekend? Lucas says, not much. I took it easy. I went for a walk on Saturday and had lunch with my brother on Sunday. Not much is a very useful answer. Sometimes your weekend is not exciting, and that is perfectly fine. You can say, not much, I just relaxed. Not much, I stayed home most of the time. Nothing special, I did a few things around the house. These answers sound natural. Now, let's learn the expression, hang out. To hang out means to spend relaxed, informal time with someone. I hung out with my friends. We hung out at a cafe. I'm going to hang out with some friends this weekend. Remember, the past form is hung out. I hung out with my cousin yesterday. Another common expression is catch up. When you catch up with someone, you spend time talking because you have not seen each other recently. I caught up with an old friend. We had coffee and caught up. I'm meeting Sophia this weekend. We haven't seen each other for months, so it will be nice to catch up. Let's practice these expressions in a conversation. Friend, how was your weekend? You, it was really good. I hung out with some old friends on Saturday. Friend, nice. What did you do? You, we went to a cafe and caught up. I hadn't seen them for a while. Friend, that sounds nice. You, yeah, it was great. How was your weekend? This is simple, friendly, and natural. Now, let's talk about staying home. Some learners think they need an exciting story when someone asks about their weekend. You do not. Staying home is completely normal. Here are useful phrases. I stayed home. I had a quiet weekend. I didn't go anywhere. I watched some TV. I caught up on some sleep. I did some housework. I cleaned the kitchen. I did the laundry. I cooked at home. I read a book. I just relaxed. The phrase catch up on sleep means getting extra sleep because you have not slept enough recently. For example, I was tired after a busy week, so I caught up on some sleep this weekend. Housework means the work you do to keep your home clean and organized. Cleaning, doing laundry, washing dishes, and vacuuming are examples of housework. You can say, I spent Saturday morning doing housework, or I had some housework to do. Now imagine Anna from Spain. Anna had a very quiet weekend. On Monday, her classmate asks, "Did you do anything interesting this weekend?" Anna smiles and says, "Honestly, not really. I needed some rest. I stayed home, did some laundry, cooked a nice dinner, and watched 2 movies." Her classmate says, "That actually sounds pretty good." Anna says, "It was. I feel much better today." Notice the question. Did you do anything interesting this weekend? You may hear this question often. You can answer yes or no. Yes, I went to a concert. Or, not really, I mostly stayed home. Now let's talk about going out. To go out can mean leaving home to enjoy a social activity. I went out with friends. We went out for dinner. We went out on Saturday night. If someone says, "Did you go out this weekend?" they may be asking if you went to a restaurant, cafe, party, movie theater, or another social place. You can say, "Yes, I went out for dinner with my friends. We tried a new restaurant. After dinner, we went for a walk." Or, "No, I didn't go out. I wanted a quiet weekend." Eating out is another useful phrase. To eat out means eating at a restaurant instead of at home. We ate out on Saturday. I don't usually eat out during the week, but I sometimes eat out on weekends. The past tense of eat is ate. We ate at an Italian restaurant. Now, let's practice a longer weekend story. My weekend was really nice. On Saturday morning, I slept in because I was tired after a busy week. Around 11, I went to the gym and worked out for about an hour. In the afternoon, I met a friend at a cafe. We had coffee and caught up because we hadn't seen each other for several weeks. In the evening, I stayed home and watched a movie. On Sunday, I visited my parents. We had lunch together and talked for a few hours. Then I came home, did some laundry, and prepared for Monday. It wasn't an exciting weekend, but it was relaxing. This is a strong speaking model. Notice the order: Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, Sunday, then the ending. Organizing your answer by time makes speaking much easier. Now, let's talk about weekend plans. Imagine today is Friday. Someone asks, "What are you doing this weekend?" This question is about the future. You can say, "I'm meeting some friends. I'm going to visit my family. I'm planning to stay home. I might go shopping. I don't have any plans yet." Let's understand these expressions. I'm going to means you have a plan. I'm going to visit my parents. I'm planning to also talks about a plan. I'm planning to clean my apartment. I might means maybe. You are not completely sure. I might go to the movies. I might meet some friends. And I don't have any plans yet means you have not decided. A very natural answer is nothing special. I'm probably just going to relax. Another is I'm not sure yet. I might meet some friends on Saturday. These are excellent everyday answers. Now let's imagine Sophia on Friday afternoon. Her coworker asks, "Any plans for the weekend?" This is a shorter, very common question. Sophia says, "Yes, I'm going to visit my parents on Saturday, and on Sunday I'm meeting a friend for lunch." Her coworker says, "Sounds nice. Have a great weekend." Sophia says, "Thanks, you too." Have a great weekend is a very common phrase on Friday. You can also say, have a good weekend. The answer is, thanks, you too. Now, let's practice some weekend plan questions. What are you doing this weekend? Do you have any plans for the weekend? Any plans for Saturday? Are you doing anything fun this weekend? Are you going anywhere this weekend? These questions all invite someone to talk about their plans. Answers might be, I'm going hiking. I'm meeting some friends. I'm visiting family. I'm working this weekend. I'm staying home. I haven't decided yet. I might go shopping. Nothing special. I just want to relax. Now let's talk about weather, because weather often changes weekend plans. Maybe you plan to go hiking, but it rains. You can say, we were going to go hiking, but it rained. Maybe you planned a picnic, but the weather was too cold. We wanted to have a picnic, but it was too cold. Maybe the weather was beautiful. The weather was great, so we spent most of the day outside. Imagine Lucas planned to go cycling on Sunday. He wakes up, opens the curtains, and sees heavy rain. He says, well, I guess I'm staying home today. Instead of cycling, he makes breakfast, reads a book, and watches a movie. On Monday, someone asks, did you go cycling this weekend? Lucas says, no. I was going to, but the weather was terrible, so I stayed home instead. Instead means you did one thing because you did not do another thing. I wanted to go out, but I stayed home instead. Very useful. Now let's talk about productive weekends. Productive means you complete useful tasks or make good progress. Some people use the weekend to organize their life. They clean, shop for groceries, prepare meals, study, exercise, or finish personal projects. You can say, I had a productive weekend. I got a lot done. The expression get things done means complete tasks. I stayed home and got a lot done. I cleaned my room, did the laundry, and finished some work. Another useful phrase is run errands. Errands are small tasks outside the home, such as going to the supermarket, bank, pharmacy, or post office. I spent Saturday morning running errands. I had a few errands to run. These expressions are common in everyday English. Let's practice. What did you do on Saturday? I ran some errands in the morning and cleaned the house in the afternoon. Did you have time to relax? Yes. In the evening, I ordered some food and watched a movie. Now let's talk about exercise and outdoor activities. Many people use weekends to be active. You can say, I went for a run. I went hiking. I played football. I went cycling. I worked out at the gym. I took a long walk. We spent the fave.no. Afternoon outdoors. If someone asks, did you do anything active this weekend? You can answer, yes, I went hiking with some friends. Or, I went for a long walk on Sunday morning. If you did not exercise, you can simply say, not really. I had a lazy weekend. A lazy weekend means you did not do much and spent a lot of time relaxing. This is not always negative. Sometimes a lazy weekend is exactly what you need. I had a lazy Sunday. I stayed in bed late, watched TV, and ordered dinner. Now, let's practice talking about a very busy weekend. My weekend was really busy. On Saturday morning, I went grocery shopping, then I cleaned the apartment and did the laundry. In the afternoon, I met a friend for coffee. In the evening, I went to my cousin's birthday party. On Sunday morning, I went to the gym, and later I visited my parents. By Sunday night, I was exhausted. Exhausted means very tired. Compare that with a quiet weekend. My weekend was very relaxing. I slept in on Saturday, made a nice breakfast, read for a while, and watched a movie. On Sunday, I went for a walk and cooked dinner. I didn't do much, but I really enjoyed it. Both stories are useful because real weekends can be busy or quiet. Now let's review some important weekend vocabulary. Weekend, Saturday, Sunday, relax, plan, busy, quiet, fun, boring, tired, productive, lazy, housework, errand, shopping, dinner, movie, family, friends, exercise, walk, rest, visit, meet, cook, clean, study, work. Now let's use these words in sentences. I had a busy weekend. Sunday was very quiet. I had fun with my friends. I was tired, so I stayed home. Saturday was productive. I did some housework. I had a few errands to run. I went shopping. We had dinner together. I watched a movie. I visited my family. I met some friends. I went for a walk. I needed some rest. I cooked dinner. I cleaned my room. I studied English. I had to work on Sunday. Very good. Now, let's review useful phrases. How was your weekend? What did you do this weekend? Did you have a good weekend? Did you do anything interesting? What did you get up to? My weekend was great. It was pretty relaxing. It was really busy. I didn't do much. Nothing special. I mostly stayed home. I went out with friends. I hung out with my family. I caught up with an old friend. I slept in. I stayed up late. I did some housework. I ran some errands. I went out for dinner. I caught up on some sleep. I had a productive weekend. I had a lazy Sunday. I got a lot done. What about you? How was yours? Now let's practice these phrases in a natural Monday conversation. Friend, was it good? You, yeah, the food was great. What did you do? Friend, I spent most of the weekend with my family. You, sounds nice. This conversation is simple, but it sounds like real everyday English. Now let's practice a Friday conversation. Friend, any plans for the weekend? You, I'm thinking about going hiking on Saturday. Friend, that sounds fun. Who are you going with? You, probably a couple of friends. Friend, what about Sunday? You, I don't have any plans yet. I'll probably stay home and relax. Friend, nice. Have a good weekend. You, thanks. You too. Notice how we use probably when something is likely but not completely certain. I'll probably stay home. We'll probably go out for dinner. Now let's build a speaking answer step by step. Question: how was your weekend? Step 1, give a general feeling. It was great. Step 2, say what you did. I visited my family. Step 3, add 1 or 2 details. We had lunch together and went for a walk. Step 4, finish with a feeling. It was nice to spend time with them. Put it together. My weekend was great. I visited my family on Sunday. We had lunch together and went for a long walk in the afternoon. It was really nice to spend time with them. That is a complete, natural answer. Now, another model. My weekend was pretty quiet. I was tired after a busy week, so I stayed home most of the time. I slept in on Saturday, did some housework, and watched a movie in the evening. On Sunday, I went grocery shopping and prepared for the new week. It wasn't exciting, but it was relaxing. Now, another model. I had a really busy weekend. On Saturday, I went shopping in the morning and met some friends in the afternoon. We had dinner together and stayed out quite late. On Sunday, I visited my parents and helped them with a few things around the house. By Sunday evening, I was tired, but I had a good weekend. Now let's talk about the question, what was the best part of your weekend? This is a great question because it helps you talk about one special moment. You can say, the best part was having dinner with my family. The best part was seeing an old friend. The best part was sleeping in on Sunday. The best part was our hike. The best part was finally having time to relax. Another question is, what was the worst part? Maybe you say, the worst part was the weather, or the worst part was having to work on Saturday. These questions help you make your weekend story more interesting. Now let's practice a speaking model with feelings. My weekend was really enjoyable. On Saturday, I met an old friend for coffee. We hadn't seen each other for almost a year, so we had a lot to talk about. I was really happy to see her. On Sunday, I stayed home and relaxed. The best part of my weekend was catching up with my friend. This model uses the phrase, had a lot to talk about. That is very useful when you meet someone after a long time. Now, let's talk about common mistakes. When talking about last weekend, remember to use past tense. Say, I went shopping, not I go shopping. Say, I watched a movie, not I watch a movie. Say, I met my friends, not I meet my friends. Say, I had dinner, not I have dinner. Here are some important past forms. Go becomes went. Meet becomes met. Have becomes had. Eat becomes ate. See becomes saw. Buy becomes bought. Spend becomes spent. Sleep becomes slept. Take becomes took. Come becomes came. Make becomes made. Stay becomes stayed. Watch becomes watched. Visit becomes visited. Cook becomes cooked. Let's practice. I went to the mall. I met my friends. We had lunch. We ate pizza. I saw my cousin. I bought some clothes. I spent Sunday at home. I slept late. I took a long walk. I came home at 8. I made dinner. Excellent. Now let's practice talking about your next weekend. Next weekend, I'm going to visit my family. I'm meeting some friends on Saturday. I might go shopping. I'm planning to clean my apartment. I don't have any plans yet. I just want to relax. I'm working this weekend. I'm going away for the weekend. Going away for the weekend means traveling somewhere for a short trip. We're going away for the weekend. Maybe you are visiting another city or staying somewhere outside your normal area. Now, let's do a simple speaking exercise. Imagine today is Monday. Answer these questions aloud. How was your weekend? What did you do on Saturday morning? What did you do Saturday evening? What did you do on Sunday? Did you go anywhere? Did you meet anyone? Did you eat anything special? Did you watch a movie or TV show? Did you exercise? Did you have time to relax? What was the best part of your weekend? Try to answer each question with 1 or 2 complete sentences. Do not answer only yes or no. If I ask, did you meet anyone? Instead of saying only yes, say, yes, I met 2 friends for coffee on Saturday afternoon. This gives you more speaking practice. Now imagine today is Friday. Answer these questions. What are you doing this weekend? Are you going anywhere? Are you meeting anyone? Do you have any work to do? Are you planning to relax? What do you want to do on Saturday evening? What about Sunday? Try answering naturally. Here is a full model. This weekend, I'm planning to take it easy. On Saturday morning, I'm going to sleep in and have a slow breakfast. In the afternoon, I might go shopping because I need a few things. In the evening, I'm meeting a friend for dinner. I don't have any big plans for Sunday. I'll probably stay home, do some housework, and prepare for the week. Now, let's review 30 essential weekend sentences. Repeat them aloud if you can. How was your weekend? My weekend was great. It was pretty relaxing. It was really busy. What did you do? I didn't do much. I stayed home. I went out with friends. I visited my family. I went shopping. I watched a movie. I went for a walk. I slept in. I stayed up late. I did some housework. I ran some errands. I caught up on some sleep. I hung out with friends. I caught up with an old friend. We went out for dinner. I had a lazy Sunday. I had a productive weekend. I got a lot done. What about you? How was yours? Any plans for the weekend? I'm meeting some friends. I might go shopping. I don't have any plans yet. Have a great weekend. These 30 sentences can help you in many real conversations. Learn them slowly. Choose the ones that match your life. Now, let's make one final weekend story. Last weekend was a nice mix of fun and relaxation. On Saturday morning, I slept in until about 9. After breakfast, I cleaned my apartment and went grocery shopping. In the afternoon, I met 2 friends at a cafe. We hadn't seen each other for a few weeks, so we sat there for almost 2 hours talking and catching up. In the evening, I came home, ordered dinner, and watched a movie. On Sunday morning, I went for a long walk because the weather was beautiful. Later, I visited my family and had lunch with them. I came home around 6, prepared a few things for Monday, and went to bed early. It wasn't an exciting weekend, but I really enjoyed it because I had time for my friends, my family, and myself. Now it is your turn. Use this simple pattern. First, say how your weekend was. Then talk about Saturday. Next, talk about Sunday. Add 1 or 2 details. Finally, say how you felt. For example, my weekend was good. On Saturday, I went shopping and met a friend. On Sunday, I stayed home, watched a movie, and cooked dinner. I felt relaxed and ready for the new week. Remember, you do not need an exciting weekend to have a good English conversation. Maybe you cleaned your room, maybe you watched television, maybe you studied, maybe you worked, maybe you slept. These are real parts of life, and real English is about talking naturally about real life. Before we finish, let's review the most important idea. When someone asks, "How was your weekend?" do not worry about creating a perfect answer. Start simply. It was good. Then add 1 detail. I visited my family. Add another detail if you want. We had lunch together. Then return the question. What about you? That is enough to create a natural conversation. When talking about a finished weekend, use the past tense. I went, I stayed, I watched, I met, I had. When talking about the coming weekend, use future plans. I'm going to visit my family. I'm meeting friends. I might go shopping, or I'm planning to stay home. After this podcast, I want you to do one simple exercise. Speak for 1 minute about your last weekend. Do not write first, just speak. Start with, "My weekend was," then explain what you did on Saturday and Sunday. After that, speak for another minute about your next weekend. Start with, "This weekend, I'm planning to..." If you make a mistake, keep going. The goal is not perfect grammar. The goal is comfortable, natural speaking. You can also record your voice. Listen to your answer once, then try again. The second time, add 1 new phrase from today, such as, "I slept in," "I caught up with a friend," "I ran some errands," or "I took it easy." Every time you use a new expression in a real sentence, it becomes easier to remember.